Hey, what's going on, guys? This is going to be a DVD review of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, uh, the life story of the Dragon. Really happy that the WWE released this DVD set. I'll show you guys the actual discs. I know a lot of people like that, but yeah, very happy for Ricky Steamboat. I think he's one of the greatest performers of all time, definitely in the top five. And there's just so many dream matches that I would want to see Ricky Steamboat in nowadays with the guys that are making their way today, like Bryan Danielson, Kurt Angle versus Steamboat, Shawn Michaels versus Steamboat. Those would just be phenomenal matches. Quackenbush versus Steamboat. I mean, I could go on and on and on. This guy was just so great for his time in an era where not a lot of guys were really that athletic, but Steamboat was definitely ahead of the pack, and this was good. I mean, I think the DVD set could have been a little bit better. I think they could have put a lot of better matches on it. There's only 2 discs worth of matches. The first disc is actually just a documentary. The documentary is good. It was very enjoyable. If you're a big Ricky Steamboat fan, obviously the WWE does a tremendous job with their documentaries. It's about an hour and 5 minutes, and then the rest of the disc one just features random special features. Just random stuff. I mean, stuff like Jericho talking about how he met Ricky Steamboat and things like that. So disc 2 is when the matches start, and I'll just talk about the matches, but I'll also refer back to the documentary and tell you some interesting things that took place in the documentary as well. So the first match on the set is actually Steamboat and Jay Youngblood taking on Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Steamboat and Jay Youngblood tagged together back in the early NWA days in the early 80s. They talked about how they were really, really close. They worked out together, they trained together and everything like that. But Jack Briscoe was actually the guy that really inspired Ricky Steamboat to perfect the arm drag. I mean, you ask anybody in the wrestling business, who is the best at doing the arm drag or perfecting the arm drag? Everyone will probably say Ricky Steamboat, but it was actually Jack Briscoe that actually inspired Steamboat to perfect it. Because Jack Briscoe did a great job of it as well. So yeah, this is a good match. It was pretty solid, maybe like 3 1/4, 3 1/2. This is from Starrcade of 1983. So pretty good stuff there. Next up, we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Ric Flair for the NWA title. This took place at Boogie Jam in 1984. I've heard Flair say in the past that he prefers his matches with Steamboat from the early days, from the early 80s, but honestly, this match just doesn't hold up. It definitely doesn't compare to any of the matches from the trilogy. My biggest problem with this match is that Steamboat and Matt Striker actually did the commentary, and they weren't really talking about the match. They were just talking about random other things. It was very informative, but I just thought it hurt, the personal viewing experience for the match. But this is very slow, very, very methodical. Good psychology, good, technically very, very solid. Made a lot of sense, but it just by today's standards, it just doesn't hold up. Just very, very slow. Flair used to wrestle, I think, around the Harley Race match, the '83 Starrcade match, and going into '84. I think he still wrestled a very, very methodical, slow-paced style. And I don't think it was until '85 where he started to pick up the pace and just become a little bit more entertaining in the ring. So, all right, so next up we actually had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Cowboy Bob Orton. This is from Capital Centre. I guess that's how you pronounce it. This is from July 1985 WWE match. This was good. It told a great story. Steamboat was going to work on Bob Orton's arm, which had a cast on it, and then pretty good crowd action. Crowd was really hot for it. These are two good wrestlers. Bob Orton doesn't remind me anything of Randy Orton. He just doesn't. But he was a good wrestler for his time. I haven't seen a lot of him, but him and Steamboat had a very nice match. Commentators, I think Okerlund and Gorilla were on commentary, and they were just in awe of this match. They were just so appreciative of the great technical wrestling that they were doing. So, but finish came when Bob Orton got DQ'd because he used his cast. So pretty heated finish. The crowd that pissed Steamboat off, and the crowd was really into what Steamboat was doing in the aftermath. So that was pretty good stuff. Next up, we actually had Steamboat versus Magnificent Don Morocco. This is a lumberjack match from 1985. Pretty good match. The documentary talked about how him and Morocco had a great series of matches. That's really all they talked about, just how great the matches were. Nothing really else. But this is a lumberjack match. I'm not a big fan of lumberjack matches, but the one thing about them is that the crowd's usually definitely always into lumberjack matches. But I don't know, a pretty generic match. I'm sure there was probably a better available match that they could have put on here, but probably about 3 stars. Next up, we had Steamboat versus Jake the Snake Roberts from 1986. This was it was a good match, but I don't know. I just got the feeling that there were better matches from Steamboat and Roberts that they could have put on here. This is just disappointing. Disappointing finish, disappointing flow. But still good stuff, though. Yeah, I mean, you can't lose with these two guys in the ring. But basically, the feud was pretty interesting. The feud actually started because Jake actually DDT'd Steamboat on the concrete. And seriously, I guess this is non-kayfabe. This was for real. Steamboat really hurt himself and was knocked unconscious, and he had to take some time off. And then when he came back, obviously that was good because it set up more heat for their feud. So, but like I said, the overall match, I just expect a little bit more out of it. Next up, we had Steamboat versus Randy Savage from WrestleMania III. I think this match is excellent. For its time, I think it's a 5-star match. Obviously, it doesn't hold up today to some of the great matches that we see today, but it's for its time. I just think it's an excellent match. Really inspired, guys like Jericho and Edge and Christian and guys like that to get into the business. So great stuff there. I really think Steamboat and Savage should have had more matches. They turned Savage babyface, and then Steamboat wanted to take time off and drop the IC title because his wife is pregnant. So that kind of like fucked up the whole flow of the Steamboat Savage feud, which was awesome at the time. So, all right, next up we had the 2 out of 3 Falls match. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Ric Flair from Clash of Champions 6, April of 1989 from New Orleans, 2 out of 3 Falls. Prior to this, Steamboat actually beat Flair for the title at the Chi-Town Rumble in February of '89. That was an excellent match. That was the shortest match of the trilogy. It went only maybe about 22 minutes. This was almost an hour. It was a great match, excellent match, 5 stars. Just a great pace for an hour, especially for that time. Steamboat actually won the match. The final fall featured Flair with his foot on the rope, but Steamboat still pinned his shoulders to the mat. A lot of people don't like the finish, but I definitely think it. Without that kind of finish, I mean, you really can't set up the Wrestle War match, which was, in my opinion, that was the best match of the trilogy. So that was great stuff. If you haven't seen that match, it's also on the Flair DVD, the first Flair DVD. That was an excellent match, 5 stars. Next up, we had Steamboat versus Lex Luger. This is from Great American Bash 1989 for the United States Championship. This had the double rings because War Games was good. I believe War Games was going to take place that night. So this is good, pretty good heel work from Luger. Luger was a lot better in WCW than WWE, in my opinion. So pretty good stuff. Ended in a DQ, but I mean, the fans went home happy because Steamboat got his revenge. I mean, maybe like a 3 1/4 star match. Could have been a little bit better. Next up, we had Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes taking on Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko from Clash of Champions November 1991. So Steamboat actually went back to the WWF. In 1991, but promised a main event spot. WWF was really stacked in '91, a lot of great talent, but they didn't really find any room for him. Then they had him spit out fire like he was a dragon during that time. But so he decided he wasn't happy there, so he came back to WCW. This is kind of like a shock. He came out as like a dragon with a mask on. Took off his mask, and then the crowd went crazy because they saw it was Steamboat. This is pretty good. Dustin Rhodes was young at the time, only 21 years old. Pretty good tag match, pretty good old school type of tag match. Next up, we had Steamboat versus Ravage and Rick Rude. This is from Beach Blast 1992. Excellent match of the best match on the DVD that I had not seen yet. I had not watched this match in its entirety. It's a great match. It's an Iron Man match, 30 minutes. Really good stuff. You can see Triple H got a lot of his ideas for his Iron Man match with Rock from this match. That's just what I got from it. I just noticed a lot of similarities, but really good stuff. Steamboat played the underdog. Babyface. He was down pretty much the whole match and then came back. Just an excellent athletic match. Probably, this is one of the. I heard WCW was amazing in '92, and I think this is one of the matches that everyone should probably check out. 4 1/4 stars. Really good stuff. Next up, we had Steamboat versus Steve Austin. This was from Clash of the Champions 20 from September of 1992. This wasn't as long as the other Steamboat Austin matches from '94. This is a lot more shorter. It's a nice little television match. Steamboat won the television championship with a crossbody off the top rope. Austin looked pretty good out there, pretty good intensity, a pretty solid match for the time that it went. Maybe 3 stars, just not that long. I expected like a 20-minute match here. But next up we had Steamboat versus Jericho from Backlash. Obviously, Steamboat put on a great performance at WrestleMania 25. I had no idea he could go the way he could still go. But the rematch at Backlash, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but it didn't really capture the magic that WrestleMania had, but still really good stuff. Jericho and Steamboat make for a great combination. I can imagine these two guys, Steamboat from '89 versus Jericho from 2001, 2002. I think that would have been an awesome match, or even 2008. It doesn't really matter. So, all right, guys. So yeah, I mean, this was good. Try to get it cheap. I wouldn't say it's worth the $29 or whatever it is, but if you're a Ricky Steamboat fan, obviously it's a must-have. But I think the WWE could have put on a lot of better matches than this. I think there's just more out there. That's just my gut feeling. I'm not sure. I wasn't around when Ricky Steamboat was making his way up in the NWA in the '80s. I mean, I wasn't really watching wrestling at the time, but I'm just certain that there's probably better stuff that they could have put on here. But still great stuff. There's still excellent matches on it. He's still one of the best. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching.